Howdy folks, Spencer here, and today I'll be going over the latest batch news for STO on both PC and console. As always, chapters to each topic are listed below. There's a ton of news to go over today, but first a quick note that ARC has maintenance tomorrow, Thursday, June 5th, between 5 and 9 AM Pacific, during which time you're not going to be able to access the ARC website, log into STO via ARC, or make purchases on ARC or associated sites. Now, shifting over to the console side of things, a 35% Legendary sale is currently live on console, along with a return of the 10th anniversary bundle to the Zen store for a limited time. This is going to be running until June 8th at noon Pacific, and if you're looking for any input on which bundles to go for, my best Zen bundles video from April of 2024 does feature several Legendary bundles in it, and I'll have a link to that video in the pinned comment below for those interested. And next week, console players will be getting a MUDs update, bringing with it the Adaption Ground Set, Protostar Space Set, and the Tier 6 Promellian Space Cruiser. And the last thing I have for console players here is the Heart of the Matter update that just went live on PC yesterday. That is going to be arriving over on console around the end of July or beginning of August. And shifting over to the PC side of things, just a quick sales note here that there is a 15% key sale going on, along with a return of the 20 keyring bundle into the Zen store, and this is running until June 8th at noon Pacific time. And the reason for that key sale is because the Promellian Command Battlecruiser was added to the Infinity Lockbox yesterday on PC. This is a ship I was a bit critical of in the stats breakdown video I did for it. The stats of the ship are really not that impressive. The main appeal to it really is the visuals. And if you're curious to see this thing a bit closer up, the artist that worked on this, Ramon, does have some stuff posted over on ArtStation, and I'll have this linked below if you want to take a closer look. Now, while we're on the topic of the Promellian, I do want to shift over to its accessories and some issues that have been exposed following its release. So, the first here, the most egregious, was found by Nick NB because he did pick the ship up to go in and test it out. And what he found is the console here, which was advertised to give plus 1200 all damage resistance, is not doing anywhere close to that. Here is what we actually got in game. It is just giving plus 100, and that is not just a visual thing. When he was looking at his stats, he was not seeing a substantial increase that plus 1200 would provide. And I know that there's diminishing returns with resistance, but when he hit this console, it took him from 44 to 59% resistance. So that is certainly not 1200. At 1200, you'd be expecting that to basically take you up to around that 70-75% cap. So that is a bit disappointing, and for anyone that was looking at this console for that resistance buff, hopefully that is something they can get sorted out because they advertised it was going to provide plus 1200. It's even on the picture that they have here for it, and it is clearly listed as 1200 in the blog here. Now, the other thing that Nick found is that the damage from the console and the trait are really lackluster. He had the console doing 229 DPS and the trait doing 400 in a Hive Space Elite on a tank setup. And, I know damage is not necessarily the main focus of these accessories, but performance this low does bring into question whether these accessories are being buffed properly by skills and damage boost. That is quite low. And this wasn't on a low DPS run. This was on Nick's proper tank friendship build where he did like 444k DPS. So everything else on the build performed fine and scaled up fine, but these accessories from the Promellian, they didn't do too well. And next up, for the June 3rd PC patch, the update here brought with it the Heart of the Matter update, which has a new mini episode, a new TFO, and a new event, and I'll talk about those more in a few minutes. Then there is the Endeavor System update, which I've done a video on, same for the Promellian. And for the general fixes down here, they fixed an error that was preventing cannons from being used on the legendary Akira multi-mission command cruiser, and they resolved an issue where certain characters couldn't be logged into. The loading screen would freeze around 40% and never finish. And alongside the June 3rd PC patch, the Ranger class has received a visual update and remaster to bring it in line with the Constitution and Pioneer classes. This update also adds customization options with the Paladin class. So this is the leak we saw for the Paladin and Ranger A week or so back over on console, they've now made their way over to PC. If you own these ships, then that is a free remaster for you to go and take a look at. And there's pictures of this over on Blue Sky from Pundus, along with some more information, so I'll have that link down below for those interested. And a reminder, we saw similar remasters happen to the Pioneer right before it got its Pioneer 2 version, so if we end up getting, say, a Ranger 2 in the near future, that would not surprise me at all. And just to be clear, it's not 100% guaranteed that we're going to be getting a new Tier 6 version of the ship, but the fact that they've went in and done this remastering to it, along with enabling customization between it and the Paladin class, does point towards them having some sort of incentive to go in and get that all done. And next up, another change that went live with the June 3rd PC patch is a huge change to fleet dilithium contributions. Prior to the update, contributing dilithium to your fleet rewarded you with fleet credits at a rate of 1 fleet credit per 1 dilithium. After the update, you now get 3 fleet credits per 1 dilithium. Dilithium is often the largest bottleneck for fleets, as many of you have likely experienced, and this higher return for fleet credits should certainly incentivize people to contribute more to their fleet and armada. And hopefully, it will also have some sort of effect to apply some pressure on the dilithium exchange backlog. And before someone asks, no, this does not retroactively apply to prior dilithium contributions. I know that's going to upset a few people, but overall, I think that this change is very positive for the game. Now, on PC, $10 or 1,000 Zen gets you 500k dilithium, which you can now turn into 1.5 million fleet credits with this change. And if you pop enough of the 20% fleet credit bonus pools prior to contributing, then you'd be looking at up to 1.8 million fleet creds for just $10 worth of dilithium. This greatly increases fleet gear accessibility and will give folks an opportunity to try out fleet gear they previously couldn't afford. And for the market players here, the price of fleet credit bonus pools is likely to increase with this change, as people will be wanting to earn even more fleet credits from their contributions. So if you see any of those that are really cheap on the exchange, especially under $500,000, then I'd go ahead and snag them up. And one last thing to keep in mind here, with this change, it's going to be very easy for people contributing a lot of dilithium to fleets to hit the 10 million fleet credit cap. So for instance, in this footage here, you're going to see me go in and just fill a couple upgrades throughout my armada. And what you're going to see is, as I go through and do this, I am very quickly approaching that 10 million cap. So on the third one that I'm going to fill here, you're going to see that I do indeed hit that 10 mil cap, and I lose out on about 200k of the fleet credits that I should have earned. So just keep that in mind as you're doing contributions. I've already responded to Borticus over on Blue Sky inquiring as to whether or not they could increase that 10 million cap, but that's something not everyone's going to have to worry about. But if you're really going heavy with these dilithium contributions, definitely keep it in mind. And a huge shout out to Borticus for already responding to me asking about the 10 mil cap over on Blue Sky. We'll see what happens there. But there is actually another update to the fleet contribution changes. Borticus has also stated that fleet credits gained from contributing bridge officers and duty officers to your fleet were also doubled. So this is a pretty substantial set of changes here, and it's going to take a bit of time to see what the overall effect is on the market from all this. And circling back to the patch notes, I really don't understand why the changes to the Ranger and to fleet dilithium contributions are not mentioned here at all. Those are some pretty big changes, and not having them on the patch notes is a bit frustrating. In general, the patch notes for a while have felt a bit light, and I wish there'd be a bit more effort put into them. And shifting over to the final topic for today, a recap on the Heart of the Matter update and event. The first part of this update is a new mini-episode, All That Matter. Now, this one is actually pretty quick to do. It's all in space, and it's basically a patrol with a couple cutscenes. So if you're going through and speedrunning it, you can get it done in around 5 to 6 minutes. And alongside that, there's also a new ground task force operation, the Devil's Heart. This one might be a bit difficult at first as people are getting used to it, but I think over time, once people understand what's going on in each of the rooms, it's going to be a pretty easy TFO to do. And then there is a new event, Heart of the Matter, and for your daily progression for this event, you can do either the new ground TFO or the new mini episode. And this is a 30-day long event. You'll need 20 days of participation in order to complete it. There is a buyout, but the buyout is expensive at 6,000 Zen, and that decreases by 300 Zen per day of participation you have. And before I get into the rewards, I want to go over a neat trick that you may want to be aware of for your progression. Okay, my daily just reset, and on the stream that I did yesterday, I did the TFO first, and then I did the mini episode, but I didn't turn the mini episode in. So I'm going to see now if I can go and turn that in and get that progress. And right there, that did indeed work. So if you play the mini episode on other characters, but you don't do the final dialogue contact to turn them in, then you can essentially bank them to turn in on future days. And for the event rewards, this is the Kida Space set. This set consists of the Portal Transphasic Torpedo Launcher, the Control Anti-Proton Beam Array, which is an Omni Beam, and the Universal Console Kida's Promise. So starting at the left, the Transphasic Torpedo Launcher doesn't have the innate shield pen that you typically see on transphasic weapons, but it does have a built-in proc that has a 20% chance to gain Torpedo Transport Warhead 3 on hit, and that will cause the next Torp to be a Transport Warhead. And that is the only unique effect that has. Then there is the Omni Beam here, which is a set Omni, so you can't use this at the same time as the Pavin Omni or the Baul Omni from the Lobby store. And this weapon does have some special perks here. It has no weapon power cost to fire, and it has a proc on it that is a 10% chance for plus 10 all subsystem power for 10 seconds. Given the fact that this is a set Omni competing against things like the Pavin Omni and the Baul Omni, I have doubts that this thing is going to see much use, unfortunately. And for the console, this is the stats of it at Mark 15 Epic, and that is plus 69.8% anti-proton damage, Cat 1, plus 5 current and maximum all subsystem power, plus 105% power transfer rate, and minus 15% weapon power cost. That is really an impressive set of buffs, and I think for anyone on an anti-proton build especially, this is a console you're definitely going to want to have on your build moving forward. And moving on to the set bonuses, the 2-piece causes drain abilities to heal your starship's hull. There's no specific values provided here, but it should be interesting for those doing drain builds. And then for the 3-piece, this is a clicky ability called Devil's Kiss. It affects up to 5 foes in a 5-kilometer sphere and has a 30-second cooldown. To affected foes, each second for 10 seconds, it will deal anti-proton damage, drain their power, and then it will give you some of that power. After 10 seconds, excess energy is then released in an explosive manner, dealing anti-proton damage and knocking back nearby foes. This is not a set that everyone's going to use, but it should be interesting for alternative playstyles like drain builds. However, the console is certainly going to see a bit of use, as the buffs on it are pretty good for anti-proton setups, so long as you're not going the full uncon console clicky route. Now, for the Omni Beam, this is a perfect example of why at least the set restrictions need to be adjusted for Omnis. Most developed players are going to have things like the Baul Omni or the Pavin Omni, and you're not going to want to run the Kida Omni over either of those. But if you could run it alongside either of them, then it would actually see some use. And for the torpedo, while it's not a standard transphasic torpedo, I still don't have high expectations. Overall, I'm grinding this set out normally free to play, so it'll be a few weeks before I can test it all out. And lastly, a huge thanks to Bridger for sending these pictures over my way to share with all of you. And that's it for today. There's been a lot of news, and quite a bit of it that really should have been in the patch notes. But let me know what you guys think of the updates so far. The fleet changes especially are going to be pretty huge, and if there's anything else you guys have thoughts on, then leave them in the comments section down below. But as always, thank you to all channel members and viewers for the continued support. See you guys around.